Hello, everybody. Welcome back to A Cult of Misfits. My name is Matt Owens, and in today's transmission, I'll be talking about one of my favorite subjects, whether or not reality is really real. Full disclosure here, this is like my third attempt at recording this. I'll walk you through it. The first attempt, I was pretty grumpy. I was trying to push it. I was trying to force it. It didn't really feel authentic. And it just wasn't working. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to soak up a little bit of nature, right? Clear my head, listen to the birds. Let Chi-Chi chase a couple squirrels, okay? So I start taking my walk, and maybe 10 seconds into my walk, I hear this sound above me. It all happens really quickly. I just hear like a, and something slams into the top of my head with such force. It was like somebody chucked an acorn at my head or something. And I'm like, what the hell? And before I know what was happening, this mysterious winged insect with a vendetta towards me thrusts its ass into my scalp, stinging me. And then just flies back away into the nothingness. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I'm already grumpy. I'm already in a bad mood. And now I got Mother Nature assaulting me. So that wasn't a good day to record. So that day was a scrub. My scalp is good, by the way. I've fully recovered, for those of you that care about my life and the health of my head. And then yesterday I tried again. I thought, all right, let's get back on the saddle here. Okay. I got a beekeeper's outfit from Amazon to protect myself, just in case. Just have that on standby. And I started recording it. Now, the thing is when I'm not recording live, like I am here on this video and on Instagram, when I'm not recording live, it just feels inauthentic. Because what I do is I follow a script. And if I screw it up, I redo it because I know that there's no pressure. If I'm just recording it on my cell phone, I'll record the intro. Hi guys, how you doing today? And I'm like, nope, didn't like that. Hi everybody, how you doing? My name is, nope, didn't like that. Hi guys, my name is Matt. And nope, didn't like that. And then I'll end up recording the thing like 25 times. And then I get into this weird like OCD loop of trying to achieve perfection with my video or my podcast that I'm making. And it's just not healthy. So I'm just trying to find my way here. I'm trying to figure out the process that works best for me. But I'm just going to start doing these live videos. Because when I just record it into my cell phone without it being live, it just doesn't work the same. So trying out new stuff here. But I'm feeling good today. So I haven't been stung. Nothing calamitous has happened. So we're off to a good start today. I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is whether or not we're living in a simulation, whether or not reality is an illusion. This is a video game. This is the Matrix, whatever you want to think, a dream. Okay. And this concept isn't new. I'm a big fan of sci-fi. So there's just lots of instances of this in science fiction, of this reality not being real. And I want to walk through why I've come to the conclusion that it's very likely that we are living in a simulation. I think that things are used in our life, and this reality as an allegory, as a parable, as Jesus would say. And I think that that our movies in Hollywood are meant to show us things, that there's deeper meanings and layers to some of these movies that come out. I'm not talking about like, 3 Men and a Baby. That's weird that was the first one that popped into my head. But I think movies like The Matrix and movies like The Truman Show have deeper meaning to them, philosophically speaking. That's why I love them so much. And so I think that when we're shown this in our films, we're meant to look at it and think like, well, maybe this is what's happening. And can I wrap my mind around it? And Would I be okay if that really was reality? These are the questions I ask myself, guys, at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know about you. But people in the technology field, people who know what they're talking about, often use the video game as an example of, here on Earth, it's only been 40 years since video games came into popularity and were invented. We had Pong and Atari. We started out with just real crappy looking screens, real digitized, but it only took us 40 years to advance that technology to now where it's highly realistic. And it's not that unreasonable to believe that, 50 years, 100 years, even 1,000 years into the future, that technology is going to, at some point, become indistinguishable from this real reality. And so if it's possible for us to enter into a simulation that we don't know is a simulation, like in The Matrix or The Truman Show, that perhaps that's what's happening with us now, that perhaps our ancestors created this program for whatever reason. Perhaps it was a interdimensional being or an alien or whatever you want to call it that created this quote-unquote program that we're in. I like to think it was just me, a higher version of me, put myself into this program for reasons of, I like to put reasons to it, like, well, we're here for this reason and that reason. Like, what is the meaning of life? I really just think it's meant to be an experience. It's just meant to expand us, to sort of put us into this state of growth, right? So I like to live my life now with the possibility, right? I'm not up here saying that this is how it is. Reality is an illusion, guys. You're all a bunch of sheeple if you don't believe that reality is an illusion. No. This is just, it's a gut feeling. And I'm going to lay out for you why I think it's a simulation. And I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. You can believe whatever you want. But the video, just our video game technology alone here is enough to say, like, yeah, I guess that's actually possible, that we could be living in a simulation and theoretically not know about it, right? That we're an avatar. I like to think that I'm an avatar for divinity, that God is experiencing the 3D world. God is experiencing its own creation through its own creation, right? It bends your mind to think about it, but imagine if you're Mario and you're just bouncing around, sliding down green pipes, hanging out with the princess and Toadstool, living your best life, not realizing that that your free will is an illusion. Mario thinks he's jumping when he wants to jump, but he doesn't know that there's a player that's controlling him. I like to think it's my higher self that's controlling me, not some evil puppet master from, the 32nd dimension or something. But the idea that we don't have free will is a little concerning for a lot of people, I feel like. And it was for me in the beginning. Like, having that loss of control of my own life. Like, what do you mean I'm not in control of my own life? I'm holding my phone right now. I'm recording this video because I wanted to. Gosh dang it. But I'm starting to think that perhaps that's not true. That even that is an illusion. This concept is actually thousands of years old. They talked about it in ancient Greece. Plato, the philosopher, shout out to Plato, by the way. I'm sure he's here listening in spirit form at some point. Plato was really into this, but he didn't have the words to talk about technology like we can today, about a simulation or a video game or whatever, or a movie. So the allegory that Plato used was a cave. He tried to explain it like this. He was like, okay, listen, imagine that your whole life you live in this cave. You've grown up in this cave. Everybody around you, your family, society, they all grown up in this cave. It's all they have ever known. And they see quote unquote reality all around them on the cave walls. But what they're seeing is these shadows. They're seeing a shadow of a tree, shadow of a little rabbit hopping by, and they think that's a tree, that's a rabbit. But what they don't know is that quote unquote real life is outside of the cave entrance. And near the cave entrance is a fire, a source of light that's coming in, that's projecting these shadows that the people in the cave think are real. Get it? And then one day, somebody decide, let's just call him Matt Owens for fun. One day, this guy named Matt Owens says, you know what? There's got to be something more than this cave here. So I'm going to wander out and look for an entrance to the cave and just see what happens. And so for 40 days and for 40 nights, Matt Owens wanders through the cave, searching for something more than these shadows. And he discovers the entrance to the cave, and he comes out, and the light is blinding, and he drops to his knees, and he's like, holy cow, the colors are so vibrant, and the light is brighter, and it just feels different. Like, this is real. What have I been doing my whole life? Some of you may have experienced this. Many people call it an awakening, a spiritual awakening. Seeing the light, seeing things differently, seeing beyond the veil. If you've ever taken mushrooms or LSD or any psychedelic of that nature, you know what I'm talking about. People who have had out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences, and their spirit left their body and they visited, heaven or spoke to their dead ancestor or something along those lines. And oftentimes people who have these psychedelic trips or these out-of-body experiences, when comparing notes, there's a lot of similarities. They're often told by their guide or an angel or Jesus or whoever they meet with. It's like the greeter at Walmart. When you have an out-of-body experience, there's always somebody there to say, hi, welcome to your out-of-body experience. How can I help you today? The guides often will say, relax. You're taking everything too seriously. This is not as important as you think that it is right now, okay? So settle down, big guy. Just relax. Things are not as they appear, okay? You're too stressed out about everything. So when I start hearing that, and I start thinking that everything is perhaps an illusion, I start relaxing a little. It helps me. It helps me to relax. I'm like, yeah. It's easy to take on the attitude of, what's the point? What's the point of doing any of this if it's all just fake, if it's all just an illusion, and if I have no free will, then well, what's the point of getting up in the morning, right? It's an experience. It's just meant to be experienced. It's meant to be observed. In the Eastern philosophies, they talk about just be the observer. And that's been so useful in my own life, especially when coupled with the idea that we're living in a simulation, to think like, you know what? I'm going to chill out a little bit, okay? The stakes aren't as high as the voice in my head is telling me. I call that voice in my head Hal. Hal's always trying to get me all stressed out. And I have to override Hal often and just say, no, we're not going to be stressed out today, okay? So back to Plato. Plato's talking about the cave, the allegory of real life, right? He also started the Eleusinian Mysteries. If you're into this sort of thing, if you're into mysticism and magic and esoterics and stuff like that, you should look into the Eleusinian Mysteries. It's very interesting, and I'm sorry to tell you there's not a lot of information about it because they're called mysteries for a reason. You were sworn to secrecy when you joined the club, joined the cult, if you will. And it was open to men and women. It was open to free people and slaves. It was open to everybody that didn't have a criminal record. And these Eleusinian Mysteries are still largely a mystery because of their vows of secrecy. They did a real good job of not talking about it. So historians and theologians and stuff have to put this stuff together and just sort of guess what happened. But many scholars believe that what was going on there is a ceremony, a series of ceremonies. They'd have these big ceremonies once or twice a year, where everybody would take a trek and they would walk to Eleusis and have these Eleusinian mysteries, the ceremony. They'd go in and it'd be closed doors. And many people think that the rituals and the rites that happened there had to do with psychedelics. Because when they came out of the mysteries, they were a different person. They had a different view on life. Their mind, their heart, their spirit, everything was opened up, cracked wide open. And so, having taken psychedelics myself, that to me sounds like a psychedelic experience. That sounds like a trip, my friends, where you start to see things differently. I'm like, whoa, we're all connected, man. Everything is one, bro. You start to realize that it's not just words. It's like, no, everything actually is one thing. And it's kind of weird to think about. So then I started thinking about the science of it all, right? Like everything is one. Okay, what does that really mean though, other than like philosophically, like, hey, we are one, we're all humans, right? It's beyond that. I mean, molecularly, everything is one. There's this one famous experiment called the double slit experiment. If you're interested on reading up about it, check it out. I always advise people, like, don't take my word for these things. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Look into it yourself, right? I was talking to somebody about flat Earth, just having a real friendly conversation about whether the Earth was flat or not. And they were like, okay, what evidence do you have that the Earth might be flat? And I said, you're not going to like the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you to do the research yourself, because I don't want you to just take my word for it. I'm not trying to convince you it's flat or round or even here in existence. So for those of you that are interested in checking out flat Earth, I said, do what I did. Go to Google and type in, why do people think the Earth is flat? And then you can see for yourself exactly why some people think that. That's a whole nother transmission. We're going to talk about that later. I can't wait. So the double slit experiment is a famous experiment that they set up where they emitted photons out of this device. And photons are just little tiny particles of light, essentially, form. And so they shoot them out of this device, and they notice that when the photons were observed, they remained photons, and they remained like a physical particle. And then when the photons were not observed, when the scientists left the room, the particles behaved differently. They turned and reverted back into an energy form. Photons have the ability to be both wave form, like just pure energy, and then also back into a particle. They can flip-flop back and forth. Just a lot of weird stuff. When you start getting into quantum mechanics and quantum physics and all the stuff of like the very, very small, very, very tiny, the fabric of reality starts getting real blurry. And scientists who study this sort of thing, they have no idea what the hell's going on. And so what this is insinuating is that reality, what we see around us, the trees, the grass, our neighbors, all of it is there because it's being observed. And the moment that it's not observed, it ceases to exist. It reverts back into its energy form. It's wacky stuff, guys. This is beyond just like philosophical. This is like a lab experiment. And they don't understand it. They put a camera in the room. The camera was observing the photons, and they clicked back into particle form. Boop, we're being watched now. But then as soon as the camera left the room, boom, back into wave form again, back into energy. It just flip-flops back and forth. And it makes sense, like if we're in a video game, the whole video game world is not rendered simultaneously. That would take up too much space, too much memory. I don't know, I'm not an expert at this. It would be inefficient to render the entire world. So all they do is render the world that the avatar can see at that particular time. Because what else do you need beyond that, right? Mario can only see where Mario is currently standing, and level 5 isn't there because Mario's not there, okay? I'm sorry for those of you who haven't made it to level 5 yet. That's all right. You'll get there eventually. I believe in you. So it's just this wacky stuff, right? And then I started looking into like what is matter? Is it energy? Is it matter? We're told since we enter school that there are 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, plasma, for those smarties out there that know. But as you start looking into it, you realize that solid matter is not as it appears. This gets into the quantum weirdness again. And what scientists are realizing is as they take these powerful microscopes and zoom in on a solid object, down to the electrons, the neutrons, the atoms, all the small, tiny stuff, they start to see that 99.999999% of all solid matter is made up of, drumroll please, nothingness. Almost all of it is nothing. Well, what does that mean? Well, they don't know. They have no idea. There are vast stretches of nothingness in between each atom when you zoom in, and they have no explanation for it. And it all appears to be energy, nothing solid. Now, the center of the nucleus of the atom is solid, theoretically. But then when they start zooming in on that, it also starts dissolving. Like all the laws of physics as we know them just go out the window when you start zooming in on stuff. And it's as if the program that we're in, the matrix that we're in, the simulation gives us just enough for us to see, just enough for us to put together the reality. Because this avatar that we're in, this mind that we've been given, interprets what we see around us. So when we touch something, our brain says we are touching a solid object right now, or we are touching something hot, or we are looking at something blue. But those are just interpretations that our mind is giving us. It's not necessarily what we're experiencing, especially if we're in a simulation. If we're in this hyper-realistic simulation, it's not unreasonable to think that it's all just a reaction. It's super wacky stuff, guys. And I love talking about it. I love talking about it especially to people who don't want to talk about it because they get so uncomfortable. They get real itchy when I start talking about how reality is not real. That's okay. That's okay. I think that as a people, as a species, we are getting ourselves to these higher elevations of consciousness slowly, right? It takes time. It takes baby steps, right? We're a real fragile species, right? We got to take it nice and slow. Otherwise, we may have a psychotic break, right? So that's all. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Stay tuned for more episodes. I got them coming. End transmission!